This is Tirana. Sunset from the pyramid, which is a building in the center of town. It has all these steps up. And I guess it's one of the best views.
Should I go in with a text?
It's a 360 degree view. And as you can see,
Yesterday on my tour,
Tirana has the old mixed with the new. It's hard to see on the side. Right there is a very new skyscraper made with recycled glass. You see these new banks coming up, and there's a lot of new hotels with these very modern buildings. There's the Marriott over there, and yeah, you can see all the steps up here that you climb to get up here. Not too bad. It's quite warm in Albania. It's been 95 or 96 degrees. So pretty much from 2 to 5 in the afternoon, I'm home in my apartment with the air conditioning on. Today I watched The Sound of Music, having just been in Salzburg with my sister Lydia, where we did the Sound of Music tour, where we saw some of the places that were highlighted in the film. So it really gave me a real hankering to watch the film again, which every time I watch it is just as good as the first time. Still my favorite movie. So on this trip, I brought my coffee setup to make my own coffee. So I bought this really cool hand crank coffee grinder and my collapsible filter that goes on my cup for pour over. So I went to buy the whole beans to grind in my little grinder. They were very hard to find here in Tirana in the supermarket. They really only had like this huge bag that was probably like for restaurant use. So I don't think most people here grind their own beans, but I went online and I found a coffee shop that does sell beans. So I walked there. It was maybe a mile or two, I don't know. Anyways, I walked there and I bought these Colombian coffee beans. It was 250 milligrams for about $9. So those are really US prices, but they smell really good. And I'm excited to have my fresh ground coffee tomorrow morning. Okay, my favorite thing about Albania so far is the restaurants. The restaurants here are just wonderful. The food has been so good. Even the simple stuff that I order that's not necessarily Albanian, it's just prepared so well, and it's basic food, but they really prepare it well, and the wine is good. And I mean, a glass of wine in a restaurant is, I don't know, $4 or something. Not only are they good, but they're about half the price, maybe 1/3 to 1/2 the price of US restaurants. So I've had lunch for $10 and in a restaurant, and dinner with like 2 courses and bread and wine for $15. And I'll try to put pictures in here. So I've had some traditional Albanian food, which was kind of like a very thick yogurt with some roasted zucchinis on it. But so far, that's the only traditional Albanian food I've had. I'm planning to have a lot more. I'm still going to be here for a while. But the dishes that I did order in all the restaurants, just fresh vegetables, nice salads, really well done, and very inexpensive. Okay, so I took a walking tour of Tirana yesterday, and the tour guide was very good and it was very informative. Also, by the way, there were like almost 100 people that showed up because they had groups going in Spanish and Italian and English. So, of course, the English-speaking group was 40 or 50 people. So that was interesting. Anyways, I learned a lot of interesting facts about Albania, which you may or may not know. The tour guide said that there are 10 million Albanians, although I looked on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia says only 5 million. But the population of Albania is 2.7 million. So they have all left. There's a huge diaspora of Albanians all over the world. I think a lot of them went to Italy, and they were well accepted in Italy. I think that was in '92 after the fall of communism. I think there's a lot of them in Turkey, Kosovo, and other places. So I thought that was interesting. More later on, maybe why they all left. I'll get to that in a minute. Also, 60% of Albanians are Muslim, and then I think like another maybe 20% are Orthodox and 10% are Catholic or something like that. So most of the Muslims here are not very observant, even though they identify as Muslim. The country as a whole is not very religiously observant. So the Muslims here mostly do not wear a hijab. And another thing, growing up as a child in the 80s, I had always heard that Albania was one of the most oppressive communist regimes, and I feared Albania. That's why I really wanted to come here, because it was such a impossible prospect to come here when I was a kid in the 80s, and there was so much fear behind it. But anyways, what I learned on the tour is their communist regime wasn't actually a Soviet regime. They had their own communist regime with this crazy dictator who was just a real piece of work. His name was Hoxha or Hosha, I don't know how to say it, but it wasn't actually a name that I was familiar with. I don't really remember hearing about him. But he was so crazy, he had allegiances at times with the Soviet Union, at other times with China. He was in thick with Mao Zedong, and he kept changing his allegiances, like based on his whims or if he was slighted by one of the leaders. He was also aligned with Tito of Yugoslavia for a while, and it just changed. But basically he was independent, and it was a brutal regime, as I had thought from what I remembered in the 80s. Religion was completely unallowed. If you were caught with any religious objects in your house or practicing any religion, you were tortured for a week and then executed, and your whole family was exiled to small towns all over Albania, separated from one another. That's what the guide said. The guide also said people had like nothing. I mean, they were starving. And for example, his mother, who I guess would have been my age in the 80s, said she wore the same shirt to school every day for 6 months. She only had one shirt. She washed it out every night. And the last interesting fact I want to share from my walking tour, the tour guide said that Albanian is not related to any other language. It's impossible to learn, and it's its own language group. So nobody from neighboring countries can understand them at all. So I thought that was interesting. Also on this trip, I learned, not from him, but from a tour guide I had in Hamburg, that the Ukrainian language is more similar to Polish than Russian, which I didn't know that either. I'm sure some of you knew that. There are these big fruit and vegetable markets just everywhere on the sidewalks. And in that way, it really feels like a third world country. People just selling merchandise everywhere. Okay, it's pretty late, so I just picked up these kind of fast food items for my dinner. So they're kind of like Israeli barekas. They're really into phyllo dough here. This one is cheese, and this one is spinach. And the spinach one was about, let's say, I want to say $2.60, and this cheese one was about $1.60. And they are huge. The reason why I bought two is because I'm going on a hike tomorrow, so a probably bring one or half of one as a snack for my hike. But my little Airbnb has an oven so I can reheat it and for my dinner. And here's my Airbnb. I think it's very stylish. This cute kitchen, and there's kind of the kitchen table, and the divider here. It's just a studio. The divider here is bamboo. Here's the bedroom area. Big closet with plenty of room to store all my stuff, and lots of great different lighting. Kind of interesting. There's all these lights over here, and bedroom lights, and then here's the little bathroom. Washing machine for laundry, and the shower. So it's new construction, as you can tell. What's very interesting is finding the place. It's incredible that I found it, so maybe I'll show you from the outside tomorrow how I found it. I only found it because the guy sent me pictures of the entrance and kind of the building. Otherwise, I never would have found it. It also has this nice big smart TV, which I tried to download Disney Plus on here because I wanted to watch The Sound of Music on there, but I couldn't get it to download, so I ended up watching The Sound of Music on my iPad. And here's my stash of sweets that I bought for the apartment. I don't think I've ever had a Bounty bar. I think it's a Mounds bar, and I wanted to try one. Also, you cannot drink the tap water in Albania, so I've been, with the heat, I've been buying these 1 liter bottles of water. This is my second one already, and I've bought 4, so I'm on 2 of 4. And that's debatable because Albania is in the EU. Allegedly, to get into the EU, you need to fix your drinking water. But people say don't drink the drinking water, the tap water, and even Albanians, I think, drink only bottled water. So I'm not risking that. And for all of you front row sitting grade grubbers looking for extra credit, the most famous Albanian author is Ismail Kader, and in preparation for this trip I read his book Broken April, which is good. It was very interesting. But yesterday on my tour guide told me about another Albanian author named Leah Yipi, Y-P-I, I think he said, and he said her book titled Free is very good, so I plan to read that.